Ryusoulger episode 20 was primarily a character episode, letting us dive a little deeper into our speedy green boy Towa. And I was glad this happened actually, because I think he is a character who could use a little more time, and I like that it actually kind of plays into what I think the mold he was already fitting into was, which is he was kind of just the fast one lately. After he and Bamba joined the team, he hasn't really had a lot of spotlight, and I think Bamba's got to do a little more of the heavy lifting between the two when it comes to more character-related stuff. So on a pure character episode side of things, I appreciated that this basically took what could be the defining trait of Towa, which is the speed in combat, and that sort of being his thing, and just pointed a sword at it and said, hey, you've got to be more than this. But I also like that the lesson was you do have to be more than kind of a one-trick pony, and you can't rely on just one skill or talent or whatever to carry you through. It was also about how you can apply what you are good at in ways you may not have realized, because he did utilize his speed to ultimately win, but he used it to win in ways he might not have previously, and I like that as a kind of inverse on what could have just been Towa's gonna do things like Melto to solve the problem or something like that. I think it was really cool to give him such a creative Minosaur to fight. The evil sketchpad was great. Weisel, it's the perfect thing for Weisel to let him have kind of control of the situation. The giant version of himself was just delightful. I had a wonderful time with that. And even just like Kreon and Weisel acknowledging that that's a weird Minosaur. It's a sketchpad. I thought that made for just a really well done comedy element within that episode. But then within all of this, once again, Ryusoulger is holding on to one of its strengths, which is giving us a little bit of a bigger picture, and that was giving Gaisorg a little time again. Him fighting Towa, him intimating that he has a relationship with, or at least is aware of, Towa and Bamba's master, quoting his wisdom at him, helping Towa, in all honesty. Gaisorg didn't seem to have any major ulterior motives, and I don't think he was aiming to really hurt anyone. And who that is, I think there are some somewhat obvious guesses. It's kind of hard to say. Bamba withholding that information at the end of the episode, to give you something to look forward to going forward, I think was good. It's one of those things where that character has been gone a little bit, but I don't think he's gone long enough that it feels like he's coming out of nowhere. He's just this background, I don't even know if I want to say threat. He's just kind of this enigma. We don't know what he is or what he's going to do yet. And I think they're once again building effective intrigue and mystery. Not only are they building mystery about Gaisorg, they're building mystery about Towa and Bamba's master, which I think is just going to be a probably big reveal, whether or not the master is Gaisorg or really was killed by Gaisorg. There are some options. I'll lay my cards on the table and say I expect the master to be the current host of Gaisorg. But I also think that because of the nature of Gaisorg and sharing the Ryusoulger aesthetic, I think it's entirely possible that by the end of this show, we have a good Gaisorg, maybe a Ryusoulger modeled on Gaisorg. Maybe we'll get a Woolzard Magi Ranger thing where there's just a color change. It could stay their master, or it could be a new character. I would not mind if they borrow that, because it is already such a different character. And it actually, in a way, with the dinosaur connection, kind of draws on what they did with Dogold in Kyoryuger. Once again, Ryusoulger kind of taking bits from every preceding dinosaur Sentai. Having the others be captured, putting Towa in that isolation was smart, just to force him to think, especially with the episode beginning with him learning the lesson. Kanalo being off on his own and just failing to flirt. Again, always good, always funny. I feel for him, but part of me enjoys watching him fail. This also was clever in that it let us have a mecha fight with Weisel without killing him. I really do want Weisel to keep staying around, and every time there's a chance of a new Druidon showing up, I get a little nervous that they're going to cycle through him real quickly. Tank Joe comes back in the next episode, but it appears to be a temporary thing from just the preview. So I think Weisel is the best one to keep. And it also makes sense because between Tank Joe, Weisel, and Gachileus, Weisel's the one who's least likely to actually fight you. He just messes with you and sends other people to fight for him. And it's a good villain character to have, and he's just so entertaining that I think they can capitalize on that to use it so he can stay. So here's hoping they do that. And going forward after this, there's a two-parter afterwards that has some character episode elements to it as well. We're going to be looking at Asuna more, but it's also got some just larger implications, heavier theme stuff, and I like that this is a very organic lead-in. It's a good like two-part in that this episode is a good episode, and it by itself doesn't have to rely on another, but it sets up some things that will happen in the next episode in terms of discussing Gaisorg and, bringing up things about Bamba and Towa that will lead further in. Like, all of that is just good setup. And, this is episode 20. That's kind of a marker in a show that's going to be somewhere in the area of 50 episodes. And I feel like at this point, I have enough information to keep me interested while not having it all front-loaded, but it also doesn't feel like nothing's happening. I really do think that they're very good about doing a combination of interesting information with just a fun episode of Super Sentai that, isn't beholden to any crazy standards. And I think a benefit of Ryusoulger I'm seeing for me is that it is not beholden to Q-Ranger's big cast gimmick or Lupin versus Pato Rangers several team gimmick, which I think hindered those shows because they lost the ability to have, in my opinion, deeper character moments and a more cohesive and focused plot. And I think this show, while it's not plot heavy, and I think when we get into the details, I can judge it more, I think it's at least focused, and that's what's important. And I feel like I'm learning these characters well, and I think every episode is very good at continually informing who they are without them being tropey or stale. And it's more than Monster of the Week, usually. Like, there is a Monster of the Week, but something happens that's more. And that's what I think we need, because I felt like Lupad became very Monster of the Week, where it was just get the collection piece, the thieves will do something, and even if one team had something big, it always, the balancing act between the two, I always felt kind of detracted from the whole. And I think this show feels more back to basics, and I am appreciating that, and I think it's serving it well, and I just hope they can keep it up. There's no evidence they're going to be crowding the cast or shoehorning in a ton of toys. If you are the kind of person who looks ahead at toy scans that have leaked, some things are coming, and I won't say what they are, but I will say that from what we've seen, I don't think any of it looks like they're going to shoehorn in any crazy plot stuff, and I appreciate that. But with that is episode 20. Episode 20 of the show. At the time I'm recording this, episode 23 has just aired, I believe. So I'm going to do episodes 21 and 22 in one video since they were the big two-parter. And from there, I will do 23 by itself unless it leads into something. I haven't watched it yet, so I don't know. But on that note, thank you so much for keeping up with me and whatever schedule it is that I've sort of half compiled together. And I will catch you all later when we come back for episodes 21 and 22.